I'm thrilled that President Trump has announced that he's going to release the Robert Kennedy, John Kennedy, and Martin Luther King assassination files and make sure all of those documents public. Today's lunch alert is sponsored by the Patriot Gold Group. You know, the Federal Reserve Board can play it one of two ways. If the Fed is dovish on interest rates and lets them continue to rise, at some point they're going to have to cut them, and that'll make the crash even harder than it otherwise would be. I'm particularly interested in the Kennedy assassination. James Douglas has written a book that you should read, actually, called Unspeakable. Wrote it in 2011. And he posits that Khrushchev and Kennedy, Khrushchev, the leader of Russia at that point, were so freaked by the Cuban Missile Crisis of 62 that almost led to World War III. We came within a heartbeat of that. Part of the Joint Chiefs of Staff was advocating an attack, a so-called surgical strike on the missile sites in Cuba. And it's come out since that there were 40,000 Russian troops there, and the missile strike would have caused massive casualties and undoubtedly triggered a nuclear war. At the time, the United States had a preponderance of nuclear weapons. We had vastly more manned bombers. We had much better ballistic missiles, and we could have won a nuclear war, probably sacrificing several 100,000 Americans, but wiping out several 100 million Russians. And the crazies in the right wing were pushing that solution. After the Cuban Missile Crisis, Kennedy and Khrushchev both decided to back off the nuclear brinksmanship because they'd almost blown up the world. And shortly after that, Kennedy changed his policies on a lot of stuff, the most visible being signing a test ban, atmospheric test ban treaty with the Soviet Union. He also issued a memo ordering withdrawal from Vietnam after the 1964 election, and gave a speech at American University where he called for the end of the Cold War. These postures terrified the Cold Warriors, particularly in the CIA, and who believed in getting rid of Castro, believed in defeating communism, and felt that we had a narrow window of opportunity to do that because we were ahead of the Soviets in building up our nuclear weaponry. The Douglas book says that these military-industrial complex and CIA types combined to plot the Kennedy assassination, and says Lee Harvey Oswald was actually an employee of the CIA for many, many years. The evidence is amazing, and Robert Kennedy Jr. has basically endorsed the book and said that that's the theory that his father had about his uncle's assassination. So I'm very much looking forward to these files being released. I can see how sensitive they are and why they've been suppressed for 50 years, but 60 years. But I think it's thrilling that they've been released. And do yourself a favor, get a hold of the book Unspeakable by James Douglas. Thanks very much for watching. Today's lunch alert is sponsored by the Patriot Gold Group. You know, the Federal Reserve Board can play it one of two ways. If the Fed is dovish on interest rates and lets them continue to rise, at some point they're going to have to cut them, and that'll make the crash even harder than it otherwise would be. On the other hand, if they double down and say that with the current coming prosperity and the relatively low inflation, they should cut the rates now. And that will mean that stocks, which are sliding, will slide more and more. So it's really a lose-lose situation. The Fed's backed into the corner, and economists warn of a 40% drop in stock value this year. Is that why billionaires are rotating into safe haven gold and silver? Thanks for watching. Give the Patriot Gold Group a call. The Patriot Gold Group offers no fee for life IRAs to viewers of these videos. The IRA minimums are $25,000 and $100,000 for the no fee for life IRA. So call the Patriot Gold Group and ask for the no fee for life IRA.